Hello, my darlings, and welcome back to the Lazy A-Hole Ranch. I think it's pretty safe to say that we're all feeling the pinch of living in uncertain times. Wouldn't you agree? Supply chain issues, shortages, pricing increases, it's all made it increasingly apparent that we need to make some major changes if we're going to get through all of this. Today, we're beginning to tackle food insecurity the best way that we know how, by working up a sweat and getting our hands dirty. Our goal has always been to be off-grid and self-sustainable, but it made the most sense to us to do so in small increments. The last 2 years have really shown us those areas that we needed to focus on. I took the task of helping us to source a food supply that we have a little more control over, starting with our garden. We begin in the heart of winter. I got started on the garden this year sometime around mid-February. I did start some seeds directly into some pots so that I would have some seedlings when it comes time to put them in the ground. I also did some direct sowing right into the garden, as well as doing these little milk jug containers for winter sowing that we'll get into in a future video. Today I will show you how I am building 3 raised beds, 1 for growing corn and 2 for my new blueberry bushes. We start by sorting through the reclaimed lumber pile for untreated 2x6s that can't be used for the arched cabin build. Once I have my board selected, I take a few moments to cut them down to size. For the larger bed, I'm cutting 2 boards at 6 feet 3 inches and 2 boards at 5 feet 3 inches. The extra 3 inches per board is to account for the width of the boards and to allow me ample space in the bed to hold 4 rows of corn. I also cut some 5-inch pieces for the corners to help make things a little more secure. Now that I have all my pieces cut, it's time to put all these together. Next, I screw the boards together using a number 10 3-inch screws. They're just regular construction screws. You could go with 2.5-inch screws as well to ensure that you don't poke all the way through your lumber. In fact, I would actually recommend 2.5-inch screws, but we didn't have any of those on hand. Something I did find helpful was to use a clamp to hold the boards firmly in place until I was able to get the boards securely together with a couple of screws. I've got 2 more beds to put together, but these are much smaller, so I think they'll be relatively simple. These 2 very simple beds that I'm putting together are going to be for my blueberries. All done. One more tip that I'd like to give you before we move on to the next step is to alternate your corners for a stronger joint. That means you go inside to outside and outside to inside. I have a bed for each of my blueberry bushes, and I went with 1 bed for each because I just had smaller pieces of wood. I figured I'd use these waste ones and just make 2 small blueberry beds. Blueberries are notoriously difficult to plant in Colorado, so we'll just see how it goes. I'm going to fill this with peat moss only. And then in the wintertime, I'm either going to surround it with hay or I'm going to heavily mulch it. And we'll just see what happens. We'll see if it overwinters okay. Now that I finished building the beds, I needed to figure out where to place them. But I realized that I was quickly running out of steam and needed a little something to eat. Well, it is dinner time and I am running out of daylight quickly. So tomorrow we will come back down and fill these up. So I decided to take Mike and Marilyn out for a bite to eat at our local small business and today's sponsor, Paradox Beer Company in Divide, Colorado. Paradox Beer Company specializes in vintage farmhouse brewing techniques originating from Belgium and France. They have a variety of refreshing beers and seltzers on tap, ranging from a light Mexican lager to a rich bodied Doppelbock, which packs quite a punch. Our favorite is the Dunk Your Face Munich Dunkel, which we occasionally take home in their fun little crowlers that they prepare right in front of you to take home and enjoy later. The most fantastic part of this hidden gem is their flatbread pizza, which are hands down the best I've had in the area. Fresh, stretchy mozzarella, light, tangy sauce, and fresh ingredients make this one of my favorite treats. So if you find yourself in Divide, head on over to Paradox Beer Company and enjoy a tasty treat. Today we're going to do a little cleanup because it is May Day and I still can't plant things for another month. Realistically, our average last day to frost is May 15th, but anyone who lives around here will tell you do not plant until after the first week of June because every year that we've been here the last week of May we've gotten snow. First, I needed to secure some fencing and then install some of these free trellis pieces that we got from someone in the area. And also thank you to all the locals who let me come and haul off your unused building supplies over the past couple of weeks. I'm so grateful to have so many materials to work with this year. Once I cleared things out, it was time to get my raised beds into position. First, I made sure to give myself enough room to be able to move in between the beds with a wagon or wheelbarrow. Then I used a level to make sure they were at the same height all the way across and used rocks to shim up the corners as needed. I backfilled the beds with some of the crushed granite that we like to call soil and hammered a small piece of rebar in strategic locations to help keep them from going on a spiritual journey. I started to fill this bed by using the remains of my failed compost pile, along with the stems from last year's sunflowers and some other organic material to help build soil. I added in some native soil, otherwise known as rock, pond dirt, a little bit of coconut fiber, and some perlite and vermiculite. I'm sure I'll be needing to add a lot more organic material to this bed, but for now I have what I have to work with, and that's just what we have, so we'll see how it goes. Now that I've made my bed, it's time to lie in it. Last but not least, I placed the blueberry beds into their new homes and cleaned out the other half of the garden. You can see a little hint of the next garden project in progress as I'm loading pieces of a trampoline frame into the Subaru. I'm working on welding up a gate for the garden using that frame. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you'll know as soon as I post that project video. Hit that thumbs up while you're at it. We are also working on some brackets for building the arch cabin loft and should be back at work there hopefully sometime this week. The winds have been pretty crazy around here, so we've been tackling a lot of stuff behind the scenes here at the ranch. I love you guys all the way to the moon and back. And if you like this video, check out this video about last year's garden.